Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to listen to our talk, Educating Otto, Writing for Chatbots. My name is Lindsey Coode. I'm the head of content production at Learning Pool. I've been there for about 8 years. So this time last year, I was stood here talking about personalised learning and how we're looking at using artificial intelligence to help us tailor learner journeys. It's obviously something that's being talked about a lot here, and we were looking at various different ways that you can use artificial intelligence in learning. So what we wanted to do is be able to monitor how learners were getting on, how confident they were, and then tailor their path through learning to really to make it as time effective and as engaging as it could be for them, okay? So we looked at a number of different ways. The way that we have found that we've kind of got the furthest with, I guess, down that path is our chatbot called Otto. So that's what we're going to be looking at in the main today. So hopefully most of you know what chatbots are if you've chosen to come to this talk. If you don't, I'll give you a very quick run through. So if you use Alexa or Siri, they're chatbots. It's really just a different way of accessing information. So there's still software behind it, but you're obviously talking to it using a conversational interface rather than having to learn a kind of computer-based interface. So this time last year, we were just starting to look at it, and we've actually gone on a real journey, if we're honest. We thought we knew how we were going to do it from a technical perspective. That's changed. We've learned quite a lot. We've gone through a number of different kind of back ends to our chatbot, and we've got to a place now where we've done some really successful projects with some of our customers as well. So probably the main thing that we've learned is that all chatbots are not equal. They have different strengths and weaknesses, and the complexity to build those varies hugely. And obviously, if you're building it for a specific organisation, you've got budgetary constraints. We're not Amazon. We're not building it for everyone to use, so therefore can spend years and years on a particular bot. So what we've learned is this bot hierarchy, okay? So what it helps do is define the complexity of the user experience that you need to create. I won't go into too much detail on the examples, but I'll just do a quick run through of the actual kind of different layers that we've got. So there's a kind of natural chatbot. This is the one that you almost wouldn't know that you were talking to a chatbot. You could be talking to a person. Okay, so to be able to do that takes an awful lot of time to be able to build in that level of complexity. We then have ones that are simulated, so it makes it seem human, but it has limited interaction, so you need to understand kind of how it works. Controlled, to create human-like conversation with limited options. So Wobot is a really good example of this. If you haven't come across it, you can get it through Facebook Messenger and things like that. It's worth having a look at. It's a very simple interface. It uses buttons in the main. It will do some free text, but it's mainly buttons for responses. But it's actually very clever and it works really well. It really does feel like a proper conversation. You've also then got directional, and this is something that we've been looking at quite a bit, and we'll talk more about kind of Otto, which is our chatbot later. And then transactional. So transactional really is the kind of low end. This is where you're really just filling out a form, basically, but it's kind of talking you through it rather than actually getting to do it yourself. So whichever level of this kind of hierarchy that you're working to, there are some key skills in writing for chatbots. The first thing, like any learning design, you need to really consider what you're actually looking to achieve. What are your goals? What are your business objectives? What's the problem that you're trying to solve? You then need to kind of set some limits around that. So you might want to set limits on the vocabulary. You need to put some constraints around it. What we tend to do and what works quite well is having these directional conversations. So you're guiding people through. You're not telling them what to ask, but you're telling them what the bot can do. And also you need fallbacks. There's nothing worse than a bot that just goes, I don't understand, I don't understand, I don't understand. People get very bored of that very quickly. So making sure that there's something in there that if it doesn't work, then it will kind of point them in the right direction, I guess. So 9 months ago, we were, oh, sorry, I've gone too far. So yeah, we were basically just kind of getting started. And what we've discovered is that when you first look at artificial intelligence, you think the software is going to do everything, but actually that's not entirely true. There's an awful lot of learning design or kind of conversational UX goes into it as well. As a learning development company, we have a lot of learning designers, and we realize that the closest skills within that area or within our company lay within that team. So we basically went to the team and said, right, we need some help writing this, or our tech team did, because they were struggling. They couldn't get it to give back sensible responses and things. So at that point, we got Matt here, who basically was working in learning design, and we said, could you go and sit with the tech team and work through what we need to do to train these chatbots, because that's effectively what you need to do. So I'm going to hand you over to Matt now, and he's going to tell you what he's learned.
Hello, everyone. Oh, bloody hell, that's loud. Hiya. So, I put my hand up and said, yes, I'd like to write what Otto says, and I get to tell my friends now that my job is teaching robots how to speak, which makes it sound a lot more glamorous. So the first thing that I kind of did was Google it. Just go, what's a chatbot? Watched a load of stuff on YouTube, and this quote really stuck out to me from a video I watched. So we're no longer teaching people how to communicate with systems, we're teaching systems to communicate with people. I loved the idea of that. I thought that's a great challenge. That'll be kind of what informs my approach to this. The other thing I heard about was a university experiment in America that people who are into chatbots bang on about quite a lot. So at Georgia Tech, there was a group of students. They were told there's an off-site tutor who you can message whenever you want. They'll help you out, give you advice. And they messaged it. She was very good. She was so good, they put her up for a teaching award. And then the kind of M. Night Shyamalan twist to it all was she was a bot the whole time, which is brilliant. It's like, wow, that's an ambition to aim for. I wonder if I can make this bot so good that people think that it's a human. So I started out trying to write Otto's language, and I kind of worked out these important elements for me that informed how I did things. So the first one is kind of the tone and style, which is the way it speaks to you. So it's designed to be easy to understand, intuitive to use. So in this interaction here, you can see when you start using it, it doesn't say something like initialized, bot has begun. It says something a lot more personable. It says, hi, great to see you again, welcome back. And that's not just to make it kind of friendly, it's to make it easy to use. It's speaking, as that quote said, in your language to you. It's simple, but I think important. The next bit being the learning design of it. So in this interaction here, I am asking it to do some jargon busting for me. So it's a simple problem. You start a new company, a new industry. You don't understand the terminology, the lingo that they're using. You want to be able to quickly get some information like, what is an LMS? And in this situation, Otto replies, it's this. So, like I said, this seems like a bit of an overwrought solution to that, to go, let's make a chatbot just to tell you what words mean. I mean, what are the other solutions? You could just have a Word document with all the definitions in it. But the truth of the matter is, you make the Word doc with all the best intentions, but where do you put it? You put it on some horrible labyrinthine LMS. It's on a G drive, it's on a SharePoint, and you go, yeah, it's easy to find. And that new starter who doesn't even know what an LMS is will never, ever find that. So the other option is maybe they just Google it. Like, that's how I find out most things that I know. You Google it. But things differ between industries, organizations. One word there might mean another there. They might hear everyone banging on about LMSs and Google it and think that everyone is a fully paid up member of the London Mathematics Society. So it's a simple problem with a simple solution. You get a little bespoke, bite-sized bit of learning, which is an appropriate use of Otto, because you need quick response, small amount of information. There we go. And the final thing is structure, which I think is possibly the biggest challenge when writing a chatbot. It's deciding like where that information is and how to get to it. Because so I'm used to writing for, say, Adapt or Storyline, writing courses. It's very linear. This is entirely different. This is a completely non-linear experience. So it has to make sense for you to just dip in. So we call it internally, we say that these little bits of information are FAQs, frequently asked questions. But that's not the truth, really. They're I call them FGAs. They're frequently given answers, because there are a million different questions that you might ask and a very limited amount of answers. So with its response here about what an LMS is, it actually has to be written in a way to make it self-contained. So it doesn't matter how you got there, it still makes sense. So someone could ask, what's an LMS? They could ask, what the hell is an LMS? They could ask, what's a learning management system? What's a Tatara? They could get there in a million different ways, but it has to make sense no matter which direction they've come from. And it's got a signpost like that in case it's wrong. Because if you asked what's an LMS and it misread your question and it's trying to tell you about Storyline instead, and the response is just, it's an authoring tool, that person's going to go away from that thinking an LMS is something you use to build courses, which it isn't, and that would be rubbish. So the other big challenge, in my opinion, when it comes to writing is giving it that kind of personality and it being friendly and nice to interact with without it being incredibly cringy and skin-crawling. And it always makes me think of the bit in Terminator 2 where John Connor is teaching the Terminator how to speak in the slang of the day, and you end up with this big killing machine played by Arnold Schwarzenegger saying the words, "Chill out, dickwad," which is vile. But we have so many things in our lives now that are personified that you want to speak. You read the bottle of a smoothie and it says, "Hi, I've been blended from 5 different fruits," and it's nauseating. So it's trying to hit that kind of straight down the middle of not being horrible and patronizing and unpleasant to use, but also not being cold. And a lot of interfaces can be hidden behind a layer of tech lingo that you have to learn, which goes back to that quote of, it's got to learn to interact with you rather than the other way around. So after working out a lot of this, we launched an internal version of the bot, kind of put a lot of this learning to use, see what people in the company itself actually said to it. So there was a variety of interactions with it. These are all verbatim. So some people thought that Otto must be really good at maths. They asked, what is the square root of 81, and how many apples are in a bunch of grapes? Then other people, they thought Otto should be able to make them rich. So they asked it what the lottery numbers were and whether it could mine Bitcoin. Then presumably a learning designer with a bit of writer's block asked it what's a good name for a fictional laptop company. And the amount of people who just thought they would be able to sing lyrics back to them is ridiculous. And finally, someone asked, do you drink alcohol? And I think if I was Otto and I'd had to listen to all that, I would need a stiff drink. So let's have a look at how it responded to some of the more esoteric questions I got. So in this example, someone asked it, does it watch TV? And it gives that answer, which is fun. Like, that's a good interaction. They asked something quite off-topic, and they got an appropriate, well, I don't know whether we'd all call that appropriate, but an accurate response, which kind of adds a bit of personality and accentuates its apparent intelligence. Then there were some mistakes that Otto made, which honestly were not deliberate. And then sometimes they had a bit too much personality, where he apparently tried to hit on one of our members of staff. And finally, my kind of Frankenstein moment of, oh God, I've created a monster. Which was an awful mistake. I had to work out how that happened. Now, the problem with that was, as a joke, I'd put into it, like, recognize if someone asks, who is Matt Watts, reply with genius. And somehow Otto decided that Donald Trump and my name are synonymous, which is quite worrying. So I had to work out how to solve that problem, because you can't have Otto saying things like that. That does not look good. So, I mean, I could spend hours and hours giving Otto an actual opinion on every single sports team, politician, or TV show ever created. Obviously, that is not feasible. As much fun as I would have populating Otto with my opinions. The other solution would be to give kind of catch-all responses, so it recognizes the name of every TV show. You know, you plug in a database of them all, and it goes, oh, they're talking about TV. Here's a stock answer about what I think about TV. That kind of seemed to be a good idea, but in actual fact, that means there's a lot more clashes, so it could misrecognize something that you actually need to know about as a TV show. Like, it might, in the daft example I had them make there, it might think that Annual Leave is a show on Netflix instead of something that you want to book time off with. So if we go back to that quote that I started with, which I thought was great at the time, I actually now think that's complete rubbish. It's not true at all. We're not teaching people how to communicate with systems. And the university study as well, complete rubbish. It doesn't apply to this at all. Because in that situation, you've got these students who think they're talking to a human. And when you think you're actually talking to a human, the amount of conversational paths that you're going to take is so much narrower. Because you're going to just say hi, and you're going to ask for advice on your course. You're not going to go in and ask it if it can sing Bohemian Rhapsody. If you think that you're talking to a tutor because of the societal norms, because they have more authority than you, you're not going to ask them what the lottery numbers are going to be. So it's a lot easier to design a bot in those circumstances. So the idea that you can create a bot and fool people into thinking it's human is nonsense and not applicable to working on chatbots in this environment. So for me, the solution to all this, it didn't come from learning theory, it didn't come from experts talking on YouTube, and it didn't come from university experiments. It actually came from video games. So Grand Theft Auto has a bit of a reputation. If you've never played a single game, you'll still know what this is about. It's the video game where you can do absolutely anything. You can drive around the city in a very legal and respectful fashion, or you can do other things. And it's called a sandbox game for that reason. It's a big play area where you can do what you like. So to play GTA, you have to learn to interact with it. And to interact with it, you use a controller on a console. Now, Otto's the same. You've got to interact with it through an interface, whether it's a communicator you use already, like Slack or Skype or Facebook for Business, or on the browser, as in that picture. And with games, they all start with a tutorial level that you're forced to take, where you're kind of experiencing all the features of the game in a controlled environment, which prompts you to try out the different commands to learn how the game responds. You learn through doing. As you can see up there, when you're learning to play GTA, you're taught how to sprint, among other things. So we're doing the same thing now with Otto, but with less guns. So when you start, you're given the option of a tutorial. And I've just decided to be kind of blunt about it. You address it head on. You say, it's not Siri, it's not Alexa, it's got a different job. So when they ask it a daft question about what the weather's going to be tomorrow, instead of it looking like or feeling like the system has failed, they realise actually they're the ones in the wrong. So then you're put into a controlled version of its knowledge base that you can get familiar with before you interact with the real deal, just like the kind of controlled situation in a tutorial level. So here it just puts you in a situation where it knows about donuts, the marimba, or Pingu. And you ask it about it, and it'll give you the appropriate information. So by doing that, you're learning how you interact with the bot and how it can be used most effectively to give you that information really, really quickly in bite-sized chunks in a situation where you need it. And then if you do get it wrong, if you decide to go off-piste, instead of those annoying messages that we're all used to, the I didn't understand, no comprende, can you try rephrasing that for me? You get it, it says, sorry, did you ask me about something other than the things I said I knew about? Because I don't know about those things, so you're going to have to try again. And then just to really drive it home, before you get started, Otto tells you that it is not all-knowing, not a fully formed human personality, and it is not Skynet. So really, my rather strange conclusion is that the quote at the start was completely wrong. In this first phase of writing for chatbots, I've learned the context is completely different to adapt or storyline. It's different to face-to-face learning, and you need to use dialogue writing abilities, UX design, conversational writing to create an environment where learning can be easily accessible, bite-sized, and in the workflow. So the kind of long-winded rewriting of that quote is, we're teaching people how to communicate with bots as if the bots are actually people. And that's me.
Thanks, Matt. Okay.
Thanks.
So hopefully that was helpful. As I said, it has been quite a journey. It's been one that we've kind of gone down in different routes. Just before we finish, I just want to talk very briefly about what we've been doing with Otto, our in-house chatbot. So Otto can do a number of things. Obviously, as we said, you know Alexa and Siri and how they work. But what we've been looking at doing is using Otto in a number of different ways, which I'll just run through quickly. So it could be a smart assistant or an invisible LMS. So if your LMS is a filing cabinet of information, I mean, this could apply to your intranet or any kind of repository you've got, then Otto is your attractive assistant that goes down into the archives and sifts through that information so that you can get on with everything else that you need to do. It can also remind you to complete your training. So if, for example, you've got training that needs to be repeated yearly, it can actually pop up and say, you need to do your health and safety training or whatever. And it fits into your workflow. Workflow is something that we're talking about a lot. It's not about people having to go and find information or find the training and learning they need. It's about people having it at their fingertips, really. So Otto can work in Slack, it can work in Skype, and it can work in Facebook for Business. We don't use voice technology, and there is a good reason for that, in that if you've got an open plan office and lots of people talking to Otto, you know what it's like in your home if you've got Alexa. I'm constantly arguing with the children over who has control of Alexa, who's going to get to play the song they want, and someone cutting over them. So that's why it's generally better in that kind of environment to have it kind of text-driven. It can also live on your web page or your intranet if you'd rather do it that way. So as Matt has just demonstrated, we've developed our chatbot skills over the last 9 months or so, and we've got a skilled team who we've trained up to be able to do this kind of work. So basically, we think Otto is great. We hope that you'll come and kind of talk to us about it if it's something that you think would be useful for your organisation. But we also have a very skilled team that if you have your own chatbot, we can help you get started, get up and running, and provide that kind of consultancy as well. So do come and talk to us. We are on stand 7. I'm looking at the back to check I've got that right. You can come and talk to Otto yourself if you want a demonstration, and yeah, come and see what you think and how it works. Thank you for listening.